This play is called Our Town. It was written by Thornton Wilder and produced by Santa Fe Performing Arts. In it, you'll see Mr. Ryan Tabor, Mr. Adam Dabney, Mr. Ethan Power, Miss Nona Miller, Miss Bree Ward, Miss C.C. Cooper, Miss Lauren Sassenrath, and many others, too numerous to mention. The name of our town is Grover's Corners, New Hampshire, just over the line from Massachusetts. Latitude, 42 degrees, 40 minutes. Longitude, 70 degrees, 37 minutes. The first act shows a day in our town. Date is May 7th, 1901, just before dawn. Yeah, it's just about. The sky's beginning to show some streaks of light over in the east there, back of our mountain. The morning star always gets wonderful bright a minute before it has to go. Well, I guess I'd better show you how our town lies. Up here is Main Street. Cutting across to the left over there is the railroad tracks. Across the tracks is Polish Town. Foreign people who come here to work in the mill. A couple of Canuck families and the Catholic Church. Congregational Church is back here. Presbyterians across the street. Methodists and Unitarians back there. Baptists is down in the hollow by the river. Next to the post office there is Town Hall. Jail's in the basement. Brian once made a speech from those very steps. Along Main Street, there's a row of stores, horse blocks and hitching posts in front of them. First automobile won't come along till about 5 years. Belonged to Banker Cartwright, our town's richest citizen. Lives up in that big White House on the hill. Well, here's the grocery store and Mrs. Morgan's drugstore. Most everybody in town manages to look into these doors at least once or twice a day. And this is our doctor's house, Doc Gibbs. This is the back door. Here's a couple trellises, those that feel they have to have some scenery. And this is Mrs. Gibbs' garden. Corn, peas, beans, hollyhocks, a lot of heliotrope. In those days, our town paper came out 2 times a week. And this is the editor's house, Mr. Webb. And this is Mrs. Webb's garden. Just like Mrs. Gibbs. Only it's got a lot of sunflower. And this, over here, is a big butternut tree. Nice town. Know what I mean? Nobody very remarkable has ever come out of it as far as we know. Earliest dates on the tombstones up in the cemetery there say 1660, 1670. There's a whole mess of Cartwrights and Gibbses and Herseys and Webbs. Same names as around here now. Well, it's early morning. Only lights on in town or over by Polish Town, where Polish mothers just had twins. And in Joe Crowell's house, where Joe Jr.'s getting ready to deliver the morning paper. And down in the depot, where Shorty Hawkins is getting ready to flag the 545 for Boston. Yeah, there she is. Naturally, with milking and so going on in the country, there have been lights on for a while. Town folks, they sleep late. So, another day has begun. There's Doc Gibbs making his way down Main Street now, coming back from that baby case. Here's his wife, Mrs. Gibbs, coming downstairs to get breakfast. Doc Gibbs died in 1930. New hospital's named after him. But Mrs. Gibbs died first. Long time ago, in fact. She was visiting her daughter Rebecca in Canton, Ohio, where she married an insurance man. And she died there. Pneumonia. But her body was brought back to the cemetery here. She's up there now with a whole mess of Gibbses and Herseys. She was Julia Hersey before she married Doc Gibbs in the Congregational Church back here. In our town, we like to know the facts about everybody. And there's Mrs. Webb, coming downstairs to get her breakfast too. That's Doc Gibbs. Got the call to go to Polish Town at 1:30 this morning. And there's Joe Crowell, delivering Mr. Webb's Sentinel.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Joe.
Would you like your paper now?
Yes, I'll take it.
Anybody been sick, Doc?
No, pair of twins over in Polistown. Joe, I see your teacher, Miss Foster, is going to get married.
Yes, to fellow over in Concord.
I declare, well, how do you boys feel about that?
Well, of course it ain't none of my business, but I believe if you start off as teacher, you ought to stay one.
How's you need, Joe?
Fine, Doc. Never really think about it too much. Like you said, always gonna tell me when it's gonna rain.
What's it telling you today? Going to rain?
No, sir.
Sure?
Yes, sir.
And you ever made a mistake?
No, sir. Have a nice day.
I want to tell you something about that boy Joe Crowell there. Joe was awful bright. Graduated head of his class in high school here. So he got a scholarship to Boston Tech. Graduated head of his class there too. It was all written up in the Boston papers at the time. Going to be a great engineer, Joe was. But the war broke out. He died in France. Yes, sir, all that education for nothing. What business he had picking a quarrel with the Germans, can't quite make out to this day. But it all seemed perfectly clear to us at the time.
Get up, Bessie.
Here comes Hattie Newsom, delivering the milk.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, Hattie.
Somebody sick?
Pair of twins over to Mrs. Gorslowski's.
Twins, eh? This town's getting bigger every year.
Is it going to rain, Hattie?
No, fine day. It'll burn through. Come on, Bessie.
Hello, Bessie. How old is she, Hattie?
Going on 17. Betsy's all mixed up about the route ever since the Lockhart stopped taking her quart of milk every day. She wants to leave him a quart just the same. Keeps scolding me the whole trip.
Oh, good morning, Hattie.
Morning, Miss Gibbs.
Is Doc coming down Main Street?
Mm-hmm.
You seem like you're late today.
Yeah, something went wrong with the separator. Don't know what it was. Doc?
Hattie.
Children, time to get up.
Come on, Bessie.
George, Rebecca. Everything all right, Frank?
I declare.
Thinking you'll be ready in a minute. Sit down and drink your coffee. You can catch a couple hours of sleep this morning, can't you?
Miss Wentworth's coming by at 11. I guess I know what it's about, too. Your stomach ain't what it ought to be.
All told, you won't get more than 3 hours sleep. Frank Gibbs, I don't know what's going to become of you, but I do wish you would go someplace to get a rest. I think it would do you good.
Children, Wally, Emily, time to get up.
I declare. You gotta speak to George. It seems like something's come over him lately. He's no help to me at all. I can't even get him to cut me some wood.
Is he sassy to you?
No, he just whines. All he thinks about is that baseball. George, Rebecca, you'll be late for school. George!
George, look sharp.
Yes, Pa.
Wally, you'll be late for school.
I guess I'll go upstairs and take 40 winks.
Wally, you wash yourself good or I'll come up and do it myself.
Mom, what dress shall I wear?
Don't make a noise. Your father needs his rest. I washed and ironed a blue gingham for you special.
Oh, I hate that dress.
Oh, hush up with you.
I always go to school dressed like a sick turkey.
Now, Rebecca, you always look very nice.
Mom and George is throwing soap at me.
I'll come up and slap the both of you. That's what I'll do.
Oh, we've got a mill in our town, too. Here, Cartwright's own it. Makes blankets. Brung them a fortune.
Children, I won't have it. Breakfast is just as good as any other meal, and I won't have you gobbling like wolves. It'll stunt your growth. That's a fact. Oh, Wally, put away your book.
Ma, by 10 o'clock I know all about Canada.
You know the rules well as I do. No books at the table. As for me, I'd rather have my children healthy than bright.
Well, I'm both, Mama. You know I am. I'm the brightest girl in school for my age. I have a wonderful memory.
Eat your breakfast.
I'll speak to your father about it when he's rested. Seems to me 25 cents is enough for a boy of your age. I declare, don't know how you spend it all.
Ma, I got a lot of things to buy.
Strawberry phosphates. That's what you spend it on.
I don't see how Rebecca comes to have so much money. She has more than $1.
I've been saving it up graduate.
Well, dear, I think it's nice to spend some every now and then.
Mama, do you know what my favorite thing in the whole world is? Do you? Money.
Eat your breakfast.
Oh, that's the first bell. I gotta go.
Now walk fast, but you don't have to run. Oh, Wally, pull up your pants at the knees.
Tell Miss Foster I send her my best congratulations. Can you remember that?
Yes, Mama.
You look real nice, Rebecca. Pick up your feet. Here, chick, 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 chick. Here, chick, chick, chick. Oh, fight. That's all you do. Here, chick. Oh, Oh, you're not one of mine. You're new. Oh, I'm not going to hurt you. Oh, good morning, Myrtle. How's your cold?
Well, I still get that tickling feeling in my throat. Told Charles I didn't know as I'd go to choir rehearsal tonight.
Have you tried singing over your voice?
Yes, but somehow I can't do that and stay on the key. While I'm resting myself, I thought I'd string some of these beans.
Oh, well, let me help you. Beans have been good this year.
I decided to put up 40 quarts if it kills me. Children say they hate them, but I notice they're able to get them down all winter.
Now, Myrtle, I've got to tell you something, because if I don't tell somebody, I'll burst.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
Myrtle, did one of those second-hand furniture men from Boston come to see you last Friday?
No.
Well, he called on me, and first I thought he was a patient wanting to see Dr. Gibbs, and he wound his way into my parlor, and Myrtle Webb, he offered me $350 for Grandmother Wetmore's highboy as I'm sitting here.
Why, Julia Gibbs.
He did. That old thing, why, it was so big I didn't know where to put it, and I almost gave it to Cousin Hester Wilcox.
Well, you are going to take it, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know. $350? What's come over you?
Well, if I could get the doctor to take the money and go away someplace on a trip, I'd sell it like that. You know, Myrtle, it's always been a dream of mine to go to Paris, France. Oh, I know it's crazy, I suppose, but I always told myself that if I had the chance...
How's Doctor feel about it?
Well, I did beat around the bush a little and said that if I got a legacy, that's the way I put it, I'd make him take me.
What did he say?
Oh, you know how he is. I haven't heard a serious word out of him since I've known him. No, he said it might make him discontented with Grover's Corners to go traipsing around Europe. Better let well enough alone, he says. Every 2 years, we go on a trip to the battlefields of the Civil War, and that's enough treat for anyone, he says.
Well, Mr. Webb just admires the way Dr. Gibbs knows everything about the Civil War. Mr. Webb's got a good mind to give up Napoleon and move on over to the Civil War. Although Dr. Gibbs, being one of the greatest experts in the country, just makes him despair.
It's a fact. Dr. Gibbs is never so happy as when he's at Antietam or Gettysburg. The times I have traveled those hills, Myrtle, stopping at every bush and pacing it all out like we was going to buy it.
Well, if that second-hand man's really serious about buying it, Julia, you sell it. And then you'll get to see Paris, all right? Just keep dropping hints from time to time. That's how I got to see the Atlantic Ocean, you know.
I'm sorry I mentioned it. It seems to me that once in your life before you die, you ought to go to a country where they don't speak in English and don't even want to.
Thank you very much, ladies. Now, we'll skip a few hours. First, we want to know a little more information about our town. Kind of a scientific account, you might say. So I've asked Professor Willard of our state university to sketch in a few details for our past history here. Professor Willard? May I introduce Professor Willard of our state university? Just a few brief notes, Professor. I'm afraid our time is limited.
Grover's Corners. Let me see. Grover's Corners lies on the old pleasing granite of the Appalachian Range. It is some of the oldest land in the world. We are very proud of that here. Now, there is some more recent outcroppings, sandstone showing through a shelf of Devonian basalt, and granite. There's also granite in these lands. Now, here are fossils, I may say, unique fossils. Found 2 miles north of Peckham Farm, and still is Peckham's cow pasture. These may be seen at the museum at the university at any time. That is, any reasonable time. May I go over some of Professor Group's?
Afraid we won't have any time for that, Professor. May we hear some words on the history of man here, you know?
Anthropological data.
Yes.
Early American stock, Cotahatchee tribes, no evidence before the 10th century at this era, of course. Now entirely disappeared. Possible traces in 3 families. Migration in the early part of the 17th century by English brachiocephalic blue-eyed stock. Since then, some Slav and Mediterranean peoples...
And the population, Professor Willard.
The population is 2,640.
Just a moment.
Yes, the population at the moment is 2,642, with the postal district bringing in 507 more. That gives us a total of 3,149. Birth and death rate is constant by McPherson's gauge, 6.03.
Thank you very much, Professor. I know we're all very obliged to you.
Not at all, ma'am. Not at all.
Now, the political and social report. Editor Webb? Mr. Webb?
He'll be here in a minute. He just cut his hand while eating an apple.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mrs. Webb.
Charles, everybody's waiting.
Mr. Webb is the publisher and editor of our town newspaper. No. Oh.
Well, I don't have to tell you we're run here by a board of select men. All males vote at the age of 21. Women vote indirect. We're lower middle class with a sprinkling of professional men, 10% illiterate laborers. Politically, we're 86% Republican, 6% Democrat, 4% Socialist, and the rest indifferent. Religiously, we're 85% Protestants, 12% Catholics, and the rest indifferent.
Have you any comments, Mr. Webb?
Very ordinary town if you ask me. A bit better behaved than most. Probably a lot duller too. But our young people seem to like it enough. 90% of them graduating from high school come to settle down right here, even after being away to college.
Now, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to ask Mr. Webb any questions about our town?
Yes. Is there much drinking in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, I don't know what you'd consider much. Saturday nights, the farmhands go down to Ellie Greenos and holler some. And we've got one or two town drunks, but they're always having remorses every time an evangelist comes to town. No, ma'am, I'd say liquor ain't a regular thing around here, except for in the medicine chest. Right good for a snake bite, you know. Always was.
Is there no one in town aware of?
Come forward, will you? What was it you wanted to ask? Come forward where we all can hear you.
Is there no one in town aware of social injustice and industrial inequality?
Oh yes, everybody is. Something terrible. Seems like everybody's spending their time talking about who's rich and who's poor.
Then why don't we do something about it?
Well, I don't know. I guess we're all just hunting like everybody else for a way for the diligent and sensible to rise to the top, and the quarrelsome and lazy to sink to the bottom. But it's not easy to find. In the meantime, we do all we can to help those who can't help themselves and those we can leave alone. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Webb.
Yes, ma'am?
Mr. Webb, is there any culture or philosophy in Grover's Corners?
Well, ma'am, there's not much. Not in the sense you mean. Come to think of it, there's a few girls who play piano down in high school commencement. But they're not happy about it. No, ma'am, there's not much culture. But I guess this is the place to tell you that we have a lot of pleasures of kind here. We like the sun coming up over the mountain. We all notice the birds. And we all see the change in seasons. Yes, everybody knows about them. But other than that, no, there's not much. Robinson Crusoe in the Bible and Handel's Largo, we all know about that. Whistler's Mother. But those are about as far as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Now, we'll get back to the town. It's 2 o'clock. All 2,642 have had their lunches and all the dishes have been washed. Children are going back to school. There's a buzzing and a humming coming from the school buildings. There's an early afternoon calm about the town. You all remember how it is. Dr. Gibbs is in his office tapping people and making them say ah. There's Mr. Webb over there, cutting his lawn. You know, 1 man in 10 thinks it's a privilege to push his own lawnmower.
Oh, you know I can't, Louis. I gotta go home and help my mother. I promised.
Emily, walk simply. Who do you think you are today?
Papa, you're terrible. 1 minute you tell me to sit up straight, and the next minute you call me names. I just don't listen to you.
Golly, I never got a kiss from such a great lady before.
Excuse me, Miss Forrest.
You go out and play in the fields, young man. You've got no business playing baseball on Main Street.
Awful sorry, Miss Forrest. Hello, Emily.
Oh, hello.
Awful fine speech you made in class today.
Well, I was ready to talk about the Monroe Doctrine. But last minute, Miss Corcoran made me talk about Louisiana Purchase instead. I worked an awful long time on both of them.
You know, it's funny, I can see your headlights when you're doing your homework up in your room.
Oh, why can you?
You certainly do stick to it. Guess you must like school or something.
Well, I always figure it's something you have to go through.
Yeah.
I don't mind it really.
Yeah, Emily, do you think we could set up a sort of telegraph thing from your window to mine and Whenever I get stuck on an algebra problem or something, I can look over to you for hints. I don't mean the answers. Of course not. Just maybe a few hints.
Oh, well, I think hints are allowed. So if you get stuck, George, just whistle to me and I'll give you some hints.
Gosh, Emily, I guess you're just naturally bright.
Figure just the way a person's born.
Yeah, but you see, I want to be a farmer on my Uncle Luke's farm. And he says if I'm any good, I can just gradually have it.
You mean the whole house and everything?
Yeah. Well, better get back to the baseball field. Good afternoon, Miss Webb.
Good afternoon, George.
So long, Emily.
So long, George.
Emily, come and help me string these beans for the winter. Well, George Gibbs let himself have a real conversation, didn't he? Why, he's growing up. How old would George be?
Oh, I don't know.
Let's see, he must be almost 16.
Oh, Mama, I made a speech in class today, and I was very good.
Well, you must recite it to your father at supper. What was it about?
Louisiana Purchase. It was like silk off a spool. I'm gonna make speeches all my life. Oh, Mama, are these big enough?
Try and get them a little bigger if you can.
Mama, can I ask you a question serious?
Seriously, dear, not serious.
Seriously. Will you?
Of course I will.
Mama, am I good looking?
Yes, of course you are. Both my children got good features. I'd be ashamed if they hadn't.
Mama, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, am I pretty?
Yes, of course you are. You have a nice, young, pretty face. Now that's enough of that. I've never heard such foolishness.
Mommy never tells the truth about anything.
I am telling you the truth.
Well, Mama, were you pretty?
Yes, I was, if I do say it. I was the prettiest girl in town, next to Mary Cartwright.
Oh, Mama, you have to say something about me. Am I pretty enough to get anybody, to get people interested in me?
Emily, you make me tired. Now stop it. You're pretty enough for all normal purposes. Now come along and take that bowl with you.
Mama, you're no help at all.
Now, I think this is a good time to tell you that the Cartwright interests have just began building a new bank at Grover's Corners. Had to go to Vermont for the marble, sorry to say. And they've asked a friend of mine if they should put in the cornerstone for people to dig up thousands of years from now. Of course, we're putting in a copy of the New York Times and Mr. Webb's Sentinel. We're kind of interested in this because some scientific fellows have found a way of painting all the reading matter with a sort of glue, silicate glue. That'll make it keep 1,000, 2,000 years from now. So we're putting in a copy of the Bible and the Constitution of the United States and a copy of William Shakespeare's plays. What do you say, folks? What do you think? You know, Babylon once had 2 million people in it. And all we really know about them is names of kings and some copies of wheat contracts and the sales of slaves. Yes, every night all those families sat down for supper, and the father came home from his work, and the smoke went up the chimney. Same as here. And even in Greece and Rome, all we really know about the daily life of the people back then is what we can piece together out of the joking poems they wrote for the theater back then. So I'm going to have a copy of this play, put in the cornerstone, for people to dig up thousands of years from now, so they'll know a few simple facts about our daily life. More than the Treaty of Versailles and the Lindbergh flight. See what I mean? So, people, thousands of years from now, this is the way we were in the provinces north New York in the beginning of the 20th century. This is the way we were in our growing up and in our marrying and in our living and in our dying. Now, we'll get back to Grover's Corners. It's evening. Near the choir practice going on in the Congregational Church back there. Children are at home doing their schoolwork. Day's running down like a tired clock.
All right, now, do it again. And remember, ladies, music came into the world to give pleasure. Now let's do it again.
Let's be the time.
Softer. Softer! All right, look here. Get it out of your head that music's only good when it's loud. You leave loudness to the Methodists. You couldn't beat them if you even wanted to. Now again, tenors!
Emily. Oh, hello.
Hello.
I can't work at all. The moonlight's so terrible.
Did you get the answer to the third problem?
Which?
The third.
Well, yes, George, that's the easiest of them all.
I don't see it at all. Could you give me a hint?
I'll tell you one thing. The answer is in yards.
In yards? How do you mean?
In square yards?
Oh, in square yards.
Yes, George, don't you see?
Yeah.
In square yards of wallpaper.
Oh, square yards of wallpaper. Thanks a lot, Emily.
You're welcome. My, isn't the moonlight terrible? And choir practice going on? You know, I think if you hold your breath, you can hear the train all the way from Conticut. You hear it?
What do you know?
Well, I guess I better go back and try to work.
Good night, Emily.
Good night, George.
All right, that's better, but it ain't no miracle. Now, before I forget, how many of you come to Frank Hersey's wedding? Show your hand. All right, that'll do. That'll do. Right nice. Now, once again, art thou rude? Art thou lame? It's a question, ladies and gentlemen. Make it talk.
Oh, George, can you come down a minute?
Yes, Pa.
Oh, and be sure to take that last part real slow and sort of die out at the end. Ready?
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only keep you a minute. How old are you?
I'm 16. Almost 17.
And what do you want to do when school's out?
Why, you know, I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
Well, you'll be willing, will you, to get up early and milk and feed the stock? And you'll be able to hoe and hay all day?
Why, yes, Pa. What do you mean?
Well, George, while I was in my office today, I heard a funny sound. And what do you think it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see your mother getting up early, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing. Still, she has to go out in the backyard and chop wood. Suppose she just got tired of asking you. She just gave up and decided it was easier to do it herself. And you eat her food, and you put on the clothes that she keeps nice for you, and you go out and you play baseball, like she's some hired girl that we keep around the house, that we don't like very much. I knew all I had to do was call your attention to it. Here's a handkerchief, son. George, I've decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not, of course, for chopping wood for your mother. That's the sort of present you give her. But because you're getting older, and I imagine there are lots of things you must find to do with it.
Thanks, Pa.
Probably Rebecca feel like she ought to have some more, too. Wonder what could have happened to your mother. Choir practice is never as late as this before.
It's only 8:30, Pa.
I don't know why she's in that old choir anyway. She hasn't got any more voice than an old crow. He traipsing around the street at this hour of night. About time you retired, don't you think?
Yes, Pa.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster.
I'll tell Mr. Webb. I know he'll want to put it in the paper.
My, it's late.
Good night, Irma.
Real nice choir practice, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, would you look at that moon? Potato weather for sure.
You know, I didn't want to say anything with those others around, naturally. But now that we're alone, it's really the worst scandal this town has ever seen.
What?
Simon Stimson.
Luella.
Oh, but to be the organist of a church and to drink and be drunk year after year.
Now, Luella.
Oh, Julia, you know he was drunk that.
Now, Luella, we all know about Mr. Stimson, and we all know about the troubles he's had, and Dr. Ferguson knows too, and if Dr. Ferguson keeps him at his job, then the best thing we can do is just to not notice it.
Not to notice it. It's getting worse.
No, it isn't, Luella. I've been in that choir twice as long as you have. It doesn't happen anywhere near so often. Goodness, I hate to go to bed on a night like this. Oh, gracious, I better hurry. Those children will be sitting up till all hours. Good night, Luella. Julia.
Good night, Myrtle.
Good night.
Can you get home safe, Luella?
Oh, it's the brightest day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling at me from the window. You'd think we've been out to dance the way the menfolk carry on. Well, good night, Julia.
Good night, Luella.
See you Sunday.
See you then. Well, we had a real nice time.
You're late enough,
Why, Frank, it ain't any later than usual.
and you stopped at the corner to gossip with a lot of hens.
Oh, Frank, don't be grouchy. Now, come on. Come on and smell my heliotrope in the moonlight. Isn't that wonderful? What'd you do while I was away?
Oh, I read, as usual. What were you girls gossiping about tonight?
Well, believe me, Frank, there's something to gossip about.
Simon Stimson far gone, was he?
Worst I've ever seen him. How will that end, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
I guess I know more about Simon Stimson's affairs than anybody in this town. Some people just ain't made for small town life. As to what will become of it, I don't know. All we can do is just leave it alone. Come on, get it.
No, not yet. Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
Well, I believe it's my duty to make sure you get a rest and change, and if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on it.
Now, Julia, there is no sense in going over that again.
Frank, you're just unreasonable.
It's time to go inside. First thing you know, you'll catch a cold. You gave George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped. For a while, anyway. No, start getting upstairs.
Oh, Frank, there's just always something to pick up, seems like. You know, Frank, Mrs. Fairchild always locks her front door at night now, and all those people in that part of town do.
They're just getting citified. That's the trouble with them. They haven't got anything fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Rebecca, use your own window.
I did, but there's no moon there. George, do you know what I think? I think maybe the moon's getting nearer and nearer, and there'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know nothing. If the moon were getting closer and closer, the men that sit up all night with their telescopes would tell us all about it, and it would be in all the newspapers.
George, do you think the moon's shining on South America and Canada and half the whole world?
Well, it probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights in town are out. There's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. Here comes Editor Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Good evening, Bill. Evening, Mr. Webb. Quite a moon. Yeah? Is it all quiet tonight?
Simon Stimson was rolling around a little. Saw his wife out to hunt for him, so I looked the other way. There he is now.
Good evening, Simon. Town settled down for the night pretty well. Good evening, Simon. Town settled down for the night pretty well. I guess we better do the same. Can I walk a long ways with you? Good night.
Oh no, that's gonna end, Mr. Webb.
Oh, he's seen a peck of trouble or two. Say, Bill, if you see my boy smoking any cigarettes, just give him a word, will you? He thinks a lot of you.
I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Leastways, no more than 2 or 3 a year.
I hope not. Good night, Bill.
Night, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's just me, Papa.
Oh, Why aren't you in bed?
I don't know. I just can't sleep yet, Papa. The moonlight's so wonderful. And Mrs. Gibbs' heliotropes? Can you smell it?
Yes? Haven't any troubles on your mind, have you, Emily?
Troubles, Papa? No.
That's good. Well, don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
You know, I never told you about that letter Jane Crowfoot got from the minister when she was sick. He wrote Jane a letter, and on the envelope, the address was like this. Jane Crowfoot, the Crowfoot Farms, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, the United States of America.
What's funny about that?
Well, listen, it's not finished yet. The United States of America, continent of North America, the Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the universe, the mind of God. And that's what it said on the envelope.
What do you know?
Yep, and the postman brought it back just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of the first act, friends. You can go out and have a pop now. Those that drink pop. Have gone by. Sun's come up over 1,000 times. Summers and winters have cracked the mountain a little bit. And the rains have brought down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already. And a number of young people who thought they were right young and spry have noticed they can't quite bound up a flight of stairs like they used to. Without their hearts fluttering a little bit. Yes, all this can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and contriving in other ways, too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountain was bitten away a few fractions of an inch, and here and there a home was set up under a new roof. Almost everybody in the world gets married. You know what I mean? There aren't hardly any exceptions in our town. Most everybody climbs into their graves married. The first act was called The Daily Life. This act is called Love and Marriage. So, 3 years later, it's 1904, just after high school commencement. That's the time most of our young people jump up and get married. Seems like once they've passed their last examinations and Cicero's orations and solid geometry, they suddenly feel themselves right fit to get married. It's early morning again, only this time it's been raining. It's been thundering and pouring. Mrs. Gibbs' garden here and Mrs. Webb's, drenched. All those pea vines and bean pools, drenched. All yesterday it looked like curtains being blown along Main Street. Don't know now. May begin any minute. There's the 5:10 train for Boston. And there's Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb coming downstairs to get their breakfast, just as if this were an ordinary day. I don't have to point out to the women in the audience that both these women they see before them, both these women cooked 3 meals a day. One of them for 20 years and the other for 40. No summer vacation. They raised 2 children apiece, washed, cleaned the house, and never had a nervous breakdown. Never thought themselves hard used either. It's like one of those Middle West poets said. You've got to love life to have life. And you've got to have life to love life. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Get up, Bessie!
And there comes Hattie Newsom, delivering the milk. And there's Cy Crowell, delivering the morning paper, just like his brother did before him.
Morning, Hattie! Morning, Si. Anything in the papers I ought to know?
Nothing much, except we're losing by the best ball pitcher Grover Corner's ever had.
Oh, yeah, I reckon he is.
And now all he'd be doing is pitching hay.
Whoa, Bessie, this can stop and talk about your mind, too.
He can run, too, and hit bases.
Oh yeah, mighty fine ball player.
I can't believe he'll give up a thing just like that, just to get married. Would you have, Hattie?
Can't tell, Si. I never had no talent that way.
Morning, Dad.
Hello, Bill. You were up early.
Morning, Mr. Warren.
Seeing if there's anything I can do to prevent a flood. The river's been rising all night.
Well, Si Crowell here's all broke up about George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
Yes, sir, that's the way it goes. Back in '84, we had a player, Si. Name was George, the Hank Todd. Even George Gibbs couldn't touch him. Went down to Maine to become a parson. Wonderful ball player. Hattie, what's the weather seem to you?
Oh, it ain't bad. Think maybe it'll clear up for good. Bill?
Hattie?
Good morning, Miss Gibbs.
Oh, good morning, Hattie.
Too bad about that weather. It's been raining so heavy that maybe it'll clear up.
Certainly hope it will.
How much did you want today?
I'm gonna have a house full of relations, Hattie, so I'll need 3 of milk and 2 of cream.
3 milk and 2 of cream. I hope they'll be happy. Miss Gibbs, I know they will.
Thank you, Hattie. I hope to see you at the wedding.
Oh, maybe I can. I'll get there if I can. Good morning, Miss Webb.
Good morning, Miss Newsome. I told you 4 quarts of milk, but I hope you can spare me another.
Yes, and 2 of cream.
Will it start raining again, Hattie?
Well, I was just saying to Miss Gibbs how it may clear off. I hope they'll be happy, Miss Webb. I know they will.
Thank you. And we're counting on seeing you at the church?
Oh, I hope to get there all right. Couldn't miss that. Hey, come on, Bessie.
Well, Ma, the day has come. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't you dare say another word. I feel like crying every minute. Sit down and drink your coffee.
Groom's up shaving himself, only there ain't an awful lot to shave. Whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. For now and then he says, I do to the mirror. Only it don't sound convincing to me.
I declare, Frank, I don't know how he'll get along. I've arranged his clothes and seen to it his feet are dry, and he's got warm things on it. They're too young, Frank. Emily won't think of such things. He'll catch a death cold within a week.
I remember my wedding morning, Julia.
Now don't start that, Frank Gibbs.
I was the scariest young fella in the state of New Hampshire. I thought I made a mistake for sure. But when I saw you coming down that aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I'd ever seen. Only trouble was, I'd never seen you before. There I was in the Congregational Church marrying a total stranger.
And how do you think I felt? Frank, weddings are perfectly awful things, farces, that's what they are. Here, I've made something for you.
Why, Julia Hersey, French toast.
Tain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard a lot of the hours struck off.
You get a shock every time I think of George setting out to be a family man. That great Kangling thing. Well, I tell you, there's nothing so terrifying in the world as the sun. The relation of father and son is the damnedest, awkwardest...
Mother and daughter's no picnic, let me tell you.
There's a lot of troubles, I suppose. That's none of our business. Everybody has a right to their own troubles.
Oh, yeah. People are meant to live 2 by 2 in this world. It tain't natural to be lonesome.
You know what I was scared of when I first married you?
Oh, go along with you.
I was afraid we didn't have material for conversation more than lasts a few hours. I was afraid we'd run out and eat our meals in silence, that's a fact. Well, you and I have been conversing for 20 years now, without any noticeable barren spells.
Well, good weather, bad weather. It ain't very natural, but I always find something to say. Do you hear Rebecca Stern run upstairs?
No, only time of the year Rebecca hasn't been managing everybody's business up there. She's hiding in her room. Got the idea she's crying.
Lord sakes, this has got to stop. Rebecca, dear! Rebecca, come down and get your breakfast.
Good morning, everybody. Only 4 more hours to live.
George Gibbs, where do you think you're going?
Across the grass to see my girl.
Now, George, you put on your rubbers. It's raining torrents. You don't go out of my house unless you're prepared for it.
Ma, it's just a step.
You'll catch a death cold and cough all through the service.
George, do as your mother tells you.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weather, but while you're in my house, you'll live wisely, thank you. Perhaps Mrs. Webb isn't used to callers at 7 in the morning. You'll take a cup of coffee with you
Be back in a minute. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Oh, good morning, George. Goodness, you frightened me. Now, George, I hate to say it. You could stand here a minute out in the rain, but really, you understand, George, I can't ask you in.
Why's that?
Well, you know as well as I do. The groom can't see his bride on the wedding day, not until he sees her in church.
That's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
You don't believe in that superstition, do you, Mr. Webb?
There's a lot of common sense in superstition, George.
Millions have followed it, George, and don't you be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How's Emily?
She hasn't waked up yet. I haven't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep?
Well, no wonder. We were up till all hours sewing and packing. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do, George. You sit here with Mr. Webb and drink this cup of coffee, and I'll see to it that she doesn't come down and surprise you. There's some bacon, too, but don't be long about it.
So, George, how are you?
I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what common sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, George, on a wedding morning, a girl's head's full of, clothes and one thing or another. Don't you think that's probably just it?
Yes. Never thought of it like that.
Yes, a girl's apt to be mighty nervous on her wedding day.
I just wish someone could get married without all the marching up and down.
Every man that has ever lived has felt that way, George. But it's the women who built up weddings. And a man can feel pretty small at his wedding, all those good women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot's tied in a mighty public way.
Well, you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Yes. Oh, yes, George. Now, don't misunderstand me. Marriage is a beautiful thing. A beautiful thing. Don't forget that.
No, sir. How old were you and Miss Webb when you got married?
Well, you see, I had been back from college, and I'd taken some time to get settled down, but Mrs. Webb, she wasn't much older than what Emily is now. Oh, age has nothing to do with it, George, compared to other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
Was I going to say something? Oh, George, I was remembering the other night the advice my father gave me on my wedding day. Yes, he said, Charles, he said, first thing to do is start off right by showing who's boss, he said. Then he said, just give her an order, even if it doesn't make sense, just so she'll learn to obey, he said. Then he said, anything about her irritates you, her conversation, or anything, get right up and leave the house. That'll make it clear to her. Oh, yes, and then he said, never let your wife find out about how much money you make. Never.
Well, I couldn't exactly.
So I took the opposite of his advice. Oh, and I've been happy ever since. So let that be a lesson to you, George, to not take advice from anybody on personal matters. So, George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Oh, yes. Uncle Luke hasn't gone in much for chickens, but I was
A book
thinking
came into my office on the philo system of raising chickens, George. I wish you'd read it. I'm beginning in a small way myself. I'm going to put an incubator in the cellar.
Charles Webb, are you talking about that incubator again? I thought you two would be talking about things worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you want to give the boy some good advice, I'll go upstairs.
George, Emily's got to come down and eat her breakfast. She sends you her love, but she doesn't want to lay eyes on you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Well, Myrtle, I guess you never heard of that older superstition.
What do you mean, Charles?
Since the caveman, no bridegroom should see his father-in-law on the wedding day or near it. Now remember that.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Now, I have to interrupt again here. You see, we want to know how all of this began. This wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm awfully interested in how big things like that begin. You know how it is, you're 21 or 22 and you make some decisions. Then whoosh, you're 70. You've been a lawyer for 50 years and that white-haired lady by your side has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? George and Emily are going to show you now the conversation they first had when they knew, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another. But before they do that, I want you to try and remember what it was like when you were very young, and particularly the days when you were first in love, when you were like a person sleepwalking. You didn't quite see everything that was in front of you. You didn't quite hear everything that was said to you. Just a little bit crazy. Will you remember that? Now, they'll be coming out of the high school at 3 o'clock. George has just been elected president of the senior class, and as this is June, that means he'll be president all next year. And Emily's just been elected secretary and treasurer. Oh, yeah, there they are coming down Main Street now.
Oh, I can't, Louise. I gotta go home. Okay, goodbye. Oh, Ernestine, can you come over tonight and do Latin? Oh, isn't that Cicero the worst thing? Well, tell your mother that you have to. Okay, goodbye. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
Excuse me 1 minute, Emily. Could I carry your books home for you?
Okay, thank you. It isn't far.
1 minute, Emily. Say, Herb, if I'm a little late, throw Bob some long high ones.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Oh, goodbye. I'm awful glad you were elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, since you asked me, I might as well say it right out. George. Oh, goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. What is it?
I don't like the whole change that's come over you in the last year. And I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but I've just got to tell the truth and shame the devil.
A change? What do you mean?
Well, up to about a year ago, I used to like you a lot, and I used to watch you while you did everything. It's because we've been friends for so long. And then you began spending all your time at baseball, and you never stopped to speak to anybody anymore. Not to really speak, but not even to your own family you didn't. And George, it's a fact. Ever since you've been elected captain, you've become awful stuck up and conceited. And all the other girls say so. It hurts me to hear him say it, but I gotta agree with them a little. Because it's true.
Gosh, Emily, I never thought something like that could happen to me. I guess it's hard for a fellow not to have some faults creep into his character.
Well, I always expect a man to be perfect. And I think he should be.
Emily, I don't think it's possible to be perfect.
Well, my father is. And as far as I can see, your father is. There's no reason on earth why you shouldn't be too.
Well, the way I see it is that girls are naturally perfect and boys aren't.
You might as well know right now that I'm not perfect. It's not as easy for a girl to be perfect as a man because as girls we tend to get more nervous. Oh, no, I'm sorry I said all that about you. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily.
Now I can see it's not even the truth at all. And suddenly I feel it's not even important anyway.
Emily, would you like to get an ice cream soda or something before you go home?
Thank you. I would.
Hello, Stu. How are you? Good afternoon, Miss Slocum.
Why, hello, George. Hey, Emily. What can I get? Emily Webb, what have you been crying about?
She got an awful scared, Miss Morgan. The hardware wagon almost ran over her. Everyone says Tom Huckins drives like a crazy man.
Here, you take a good drink of water. You look all shook up. Gotta look both ways before you cross Main Street these days. Gets worse every year. Well, what do you have?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate, Mrs. Morgan.
No, Emily. Have a ice cream soda with me.
Well,
2 ice cream sodas, please.
2 ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There are 225 horses in Grover's Corners this minute. I'm talking to you. State inspector was in here yesterday, and now they're bringing in all these automobiles. Best thing to do is just stay at home. Why, I remember when dogs used to nap in the middle of Main Street and nothing ever came to disturb them. Here you are. Yes, Miss Ellis, I'll be with you in a minute. What can I do you for?
You're so expensive.
No, Emily, don't think of that. We're celebrating our election. You know what else I'm celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating because I've got a friend that tells me the things that ought to be told to me.
No, George, don't think of that. I don't know why I said it. It's
No,
not true.
You stick to it, Emily. I'm glad you spoke to me about my character. And I'm gonna change. And I'm gonna change so fast. You'll see. And I wanted to ask you a question, Emily. Whenever I go away to state agricultural college, could you write me a letter once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. You know, it seems like being away for 3 years, you'd get out of touch with things. Maybe letters from Grover's Corners wouldn't be so interesting after a while. I mean, Grover's Corners isn't a very important place whenever you think of all New Hampshire. But I think it's a very nice town.
They wouldn't come when I wouldn't want to know everything about our town. I know that's true, Emily.
Well, I'll try to make the letters interesting.
You know, whenever I meet a farmer, I always ask them if they think it's important to go to agricultural school to be a good farmer.
Why, George?
And most of them say they don't think it's important. You can get all that stuff in the pamphlets the government sends out anyway. And you say being away all that time in other towns and other places, you can get out of touch with yourself. And if something like that can happen to me, then I'm not sure I want to leave. Emily, I'm going to make up my mind right now. I won't go to agricultural college. Tell Paul about it tonight.
Why, George, why did you have to decide right now? It's a whole year away.
Emily, I'm glad you spoke to me about that fault in my character. And it was mostly right, except for one thing, where you said I wasn't noticing people. And you, for instance, you said you were always noticing where I was. Well, I was doing the same about you all the time. Of course, you were one of those chief people I noticed. I always made sure where you were sitting in the bleachers and who you were with. And for 3 days not, I've tried to walk home with you, but something's always come up. Like yesterday, I waited on the wall for you. We walked home with Miss Corporal.
Why, George? Well, that's awfully funny. But how could I have known
Emily,
that?
I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to agricultural college. I think that once you've met someone you're very fond of, I mean someone who's fond of you and who likes you well enough to tell you about your character, well, I think that's just as important as college is, even more so. That's what I think.
I think that's very important, too.
Emily, if I do change and make a big difference, would you be, or could you be?
I am now. And I always have been.
So I guess it's an important conversation we've been having.
Yes.
Wait just a minute, Emily, and I'll be back to walk you home. Miss Morgan, I'm gonna have to go home to get some money to pay you for these drinks.
What's that, George Gibbs? Do you mean to tell me
Yes, Miss Morgan. But I had my reasons. Here, take my gold watch to keep until I come back.
It's all right, George. Keep your watch. I'll trust you.
I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I'll trust you 10 years, George Gibbs. Not a day over. Got all over your shock, Emily?
Oh, yes, Mrs. Morgan. It was nothing.
I'm ready.
Well, now we'll get on to the wedding. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. There are a lot of thoughts that go on during a wedding. Can't fit them all into one wedding, naturally, especially not a wedding in Grover's Corners. In this play, I take the part of the minister. That gives me the right to say a few things more. Yes, for a while now, the play gets pretty serious. See, some churches say marriage is a sacrament. I don't quite know what that means, but I can guess. It's like Mrs. Gibbs said a few minutes ago. People are supposed to live 2 by 2. This is a good wedding. People are young, but they come from a good state and they chose right. The real hero of the scene isn't on stage at all. We all know who that is. It's like one of those poets said, every time a child is born into the world, it's nature's attempt at making a perfect human being. Well, we've seen nature pushing and contriving for some time now, and we all know she's interested in quantity. But I think she's interested in quality too. Maybe she's trying to make the next good governor for New Hampshire. That's what Emily hopes. And let's not forget about all of the other ancestors at this wedding. Millions of them. Most of them set out to live 2 by 2. Millions of them. Well, that's all my sermon. It wasn't very long anyway.
I don't know why on earth I should be crying. I suppose there's nothing to cry about. This morning at breakfast, it came over me. There was Emily eating her breakfast as she's done for 17 years. And she's going out of my house. I suppose that's it. And Emily, she suddenly said, I can't eat another mouthful. And she put her head down on the table and she cried. Got to say it. You know, there's something downright cruel about sending girls out into marriages like that. It's cruel, I know, but I just couldn't get myself to say anything. I went to it as blind as a bat myself. The whole world's wrong. That's what's the matter. There they come.
Hey, fellas, he's here,
Oh, George, old geezer, you don't have to look so innocent. We all know what you're thinking.
Don't you make way, old geezer, you.
All right, that's enough of that. Used to be an awful lot of that sort of thing in weddings in the old days. Rome and later. We're more civilized now. So they say. George, what's the matter?
Ma, I don't want to grow old. Why is everyone pushing me so?
George, you wanted it.
No. Ma, listen to me.
No, George, you're a man now.
Ma, for the last time, all I want to do is be a fella.
George, if anyone should hear you, I'm ashamed of you.
Where's Emily?
George, you gave me such a turn.
Cheer up, Ma. I'm getting married.
Well, let me catch my breath a minute.
You save Thursday nights. Emily and I are coming over every Thursday night. You'll see. Ma, why are you crying? You gotta get ready for this thing.
Oh, I never felt so alone in my whole life. George over there. I hate him. I wish he were dead. Papa.
Emily, now don't get upset.
Papa, darling, I don't want to get married.
Shh, Emily, everything's all right.
Why can't I just stay for a while as I am? Let's go away.
No, Emily, now stop and think a minute.
Don't you remember what you used to always say? All the time that I was your girl. There must be lots of places we could go. I could work for you. I could keep the house.
No, Emily, you mustn't think of such things. You're just nervous. Now, hey, George, can you come here a minute? Why, you're marrying the best young fellow in the world. George is a fine fellow.
Papa.
I'm giving away my daughter, George. Do you think you can take care of her?
I want to try. Emily, I love you. I need you.
Well, if you love me, help me. All I want is someone to love me.
I will, Emily.
And I mean forever. I mean forever. Do you hear? Forever.
Come. Now you know it'll be okay.
To you, George, take this woman, Emily, to be your wedded wife.
Loveliest wedding I've ever seen. Oh, I do love a good wedding, don't you? Doesn't she make a lovely bride?
To love and to cherish, till death do us part.
I do.
And to you, Emily, take this man, George.
Don't know when I've been to such a nice wedding, but I always cry. I do. Don't know why. Just like to see young people happy, I suppose. Don't you?
I do.
I've married over 200 couples in my day. Do I believe in it? I don't know. I suppose. M marries M. Millions of them. Sunday afternoon drives in the Ford, cottage, go-kart, first rheumatism, grandchildren, second rheumatism, the deathbed, the reading of the will. Once in a million times, it's interesting.
I'm sure they'll be happy. I always say, happiness, that's the great thing. The important thing is to be happy.
That's all the second act, folks. 10 minutes intermission. This time 9 years have gone by, friends. Summer 1913. Gradual changes in Grover's Corners. Horses are getting rarer. Farmers coming to town now in Fords. Everybody locks their house doors now at night. Ain't been any burglars yet, but everybody's heard about it. You'd be surprised, though. On the whole, things don't change much around here. This is certainly an important part of Grover's Corners. It's on a hilltop, a windy hilltop. Lots of sun, often lots of moon and stars. Come up here on a fine afternoon and you can see range on range of hills. Awful blue they are up there, by Lake Sunapee and Lake Winnipesaukee. And if you go way up, there's the White Mountain, Conway and North Conway is. And around it lie all these towns, Jaffrey, North Jaffrey, Petersboro and Dublin, and there, quite a ways up, it's Grover's Corners. Yes, beautiful spot up here. Lots of mountain laurel and lilacs. I often wonder why people might like to be buried in Woodlawn, Brooklyn, and they might pass the same time up here in New Hampshire. These are the old stones, 1660 to 1670. Strong-minded individuals came a long ways to be independent. Summer, people walk around and laugh at the funny names on the stones. Don't do any harm. And genealogists get paid by the city folk for looking up their ancestors. They want to make sure they're daughters of the American Revolution, of the Mayflower. Guess that don't do any harm either. Over here are some Civil War veterans. Iron flags on their graves. New Hampshire boys. Had a notion that the Union ought to be kept together, though they'd never seen more than 50 miles of it themselves. All they knew was the name, friends. The United States of America. the United States of America, and they went and died about it. Over here is the new part of the cemetery. There's your friend, Mrs. Gibbs, and Mr. Stimson, organist at the Congregational Church. And look, Mrs. Soames, who enjoyed the wedding so much. Remember? Lots of others. Editor Webb's boy, Wallace, whose appendix burst on a camping trip up in Crawford Notch. Yes, a lot of sorrow is sort of quieted down up here. Bring your relatives up here on this hill, and then times, sunny days, rainy days, snow. We all know how it is. A lot of thoughts come up here. There's no post office. But there are some things we know, but we don't take them out and look at them very often. We all know, deep down, that something is eternal. And that something has to do with human beings. Greatest people ever lived have been telling us that for thousands of years. And yet you'd be surprised how many people let go of the fact. Maybe some of the things they're going to say will hurt your feelings. That's just the way it is. Husband and wife, mother and daughter, enemy and enemy, money, and all those terribly important things kind of grow pale around here. And what's left? What's left when your memory's gone and your identity? Mrs. Smith? No. Here comes a living person. Sam Craig, Grover's Corners boy, left town to go out west. Now I'll be taking the part of Joe Stoddard, the undertaker, supervising a new made grave.
Good afternoon, Joe Stoddard.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. Let me see. Do I know you?
Why, I'm Sam Craig.
Oh, gracious sakes alive. But of all people, I should have known you'd be back, Sam. You've been away a while.
Been away for 12 years, but I'm in business back out in Buffalo now, Joe. I was in the East when I got news of my cousin's death, so I thought I'd combine things a little and come and see the old home. You look well.
Yes, yes, can't complain. I always say I hate to supervise when a young person's taken. My son's supervising at the home today. Had to come here early.
Old Farmer McCarthy. I used to do chores for him after school. He had Labago.
Yes, we brought Farmer McCarthy here a number of years ago now.
Why, this is my Aunt Julia. I'd forgotten that she, of course.
Doc Gibbs lost his wife 2 or 3 years ago now. About this time. Today's another bad blow for him, too.
That's my sister Carrie's boy, Sam. Sam Craig.
I'm always uncomfortable when they're around.
Simon.
Did they choose their own verses much, Joe?
Not usual. Mostly the bereaved.
Doesn't sound like my Aunt Julia. Well, there aren't many of those Hersey sisters left now, I suppose. I wanted to see my mother's and father's.
Over there, by the rest of the Craigs. Avenue F.
He was organist at church, wasn't he? Used to drink a lot, we used to say.
No one was really supposed to know about him. He'd seen a peck of trouble. Hung himself, you know.
Oh, did he?
Yep, hung himself in the attic. Tried to hush it up, but naturally it got around. He wrote his own epitaph. It ain't a verse exactly. See it right there.
Well, it's just some notes of music. What is it?
I wouldn't know. It was all written up in the Boston papers at the time.
Joe, what did she die of? My cousin.
Oh. Well, didn't you hear? She had some trouble bringing a baby into the world. It was her second, though. There's a little boy about 4.
And the grave's gonna be over here.
Yes, ain't much more room amongst the Gibbses over there, so they opened up a whole new section here. You'll excuse me now. See, they're coming.
Who is it, Julia?
My daughter-in-law.
Emily Webb.
I declare, Ron must have been awfully money coming up. Where'd she die of, Julia?
In childbirth.
Childbirth? Forgotten all about that. I was in black awful. And wonderful.
Wonderful, was it?
Simon, I remember.
I remember. Emily's wedding. Wasn't it the loveliest wedding you've ever seen? And I remember her reading the poem at graduation exercises. Emily was one of the brightest girls ever graduated from high school. I heard Principal Wilkinson say it time after time. I visited them on their farm just before I died. Perfectly lovely farm.
It was on the same road we lived on.
Oh, yeah? Right, smart farm. I always loved that hymn. I was hoping they'd sing a hymn. Hello? Hello, Emily. Hello, Miss Gibbs. Hello, Mother Gibbs.
Emily.
Oh, hello. It's raining.
Yes. They'll be gone soon, dear. Just sit and rest yourself.
Seems thousands and thousands of years since Pop remembered that was my favorite hymn. I wish I'd been here a long time. I don't like being new here. Oh, how do you do, Mr. Simpson?
How do you do, Emily?
Mother Gibbs, George and I made that farm into just the best place you ever saw. We thought of you all the time. We wanted to show you the new farm and a great long cement drinking fountain we left at the stop. We bought that out of the money you left us.
I did?
Don't you remember, Mother Gibbs? The legacy you left us. Why, it was over $350.
Yes. Yes, Emily.
Well, there's a protect device in this drinking fountain so that it never overflows, Mother Gibbs. And it never sinks below a certain mark they have there. It's fine. It won't be the same with George without me. But it's a lovely farm. Live people don't understand, do they?
No, dear. Not very much.
They're sort of shut up in little boxes. I feel as though I knew them 1,000 years ago. My little boy is spending the day at Mrs. Carter's. Oh, Mr. Carter, my little boy is spending the day at your house. Is he? Yes, he loves it there. Mother Gibbs, we have a Ford, too. Doesn't give us any trouble. I don't drive, though. Mother Gibbs, when does this feeling go away? Of being one of them? How long does it?
Dear, just wait. Be patient.
I know. Look, they're finished. They're going. Look, Father Gibbs is bringing some of my flowers to you. He looks just like George, doesn't he? Mother Gibbs, I never realized how troubled, how in the dark life persons are. Look at him. I loved him so. From morning to night, that's all they are, is trouble. A bit cooler than it was.
That rain's cooled it off a little. Those northeastern winds are all the same. If it ain't rain, it's a 3-day blow.
Mother Gibbs, one can go back. One can go back there into living. I feel it, I know it. But just then, for a moment, I was thinking about the farm. And for a minute, I was there. And my baby was in my lap as plain as day.
Yes, of course you can.
I can go back there and live those days all over again. Why not?
All I can say is, Emily, don't.
But it's true, isn't it? I can go back there and live again.
Yes, some have tried, but they soon come back here.
Don't do it, Emily.
Emily, no.
It's not what you think it'd be.
But I won't choose to live over a sad day. I'll choose a happy one. I'll choose the day I first knew I loved George. No. Why should that be painful?
As you go back there, you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
You see the future. You know what's going to happen afterwards.
But is that painful? Why?
That's not the only reason why you shouldn't do it, Emily. When you've been here longer, you'll see. Our life here is to forget all that and to think only of what is ahead. When you've been here longer, you'll understand.
Mother Gibbs, how can I ever forget that life? It's all I know. It's all I had. Oh, Emily.
It isn't wise. Really, it isn't.
But it's a thing I must know for myself. I'll choose a happy day anyway.
No! At least choose an unimportant day. Choose the least important day in your life. It'll be important enough.
Then it can't be whenever I was married. When the baby was born. I can choose a birthday at least. I choose my 12th birthday.
All right. February 11th, 1899. A Tuesday. Do you want any special time of day?
I want the whole day.
We'll begin at dawn. Remember, it had been snowing for several days. And it just began to clear up. Look, the sun's coming up.
Oh. Look, there's Main Street. And there's Mrs. Morgan's drugstore before she changed it.
Yes, it's 1899. This is 14 years ago.
That's the town I knew as a little girl. Oh, look, there's the old fence that used to surround our house. I've forgotten that. I love it so. Are they inside?
Yes. Mother will be coming downstairs any minute to make breakfast.
Will she?
You remember your father had been away on a trip?
No.
He went to visit his old college in western New York at Clinton.
Look, there's Hattie Newsom. And there's our policeman. But he's dead. He died.
Whoa, Bessie. Morning, Bill.
Morning, Hattie.
You're up early.
Been rescuing a party. Darn near froze to death down by Polish Town Car. Got drunk and lay out in the snowdrifts. Thought he was in bed when I shook him.
And there's Joe Crowell.
Good morning, Miss Ward. Good morning, Hattie.
Morning, Joe.
Children, walk, Emily, time to get up.
Mama. Mama, I'm here. Look how young Mama looks. I didn't know Mama was ever that young.
You can come and dress by the kitchen fire if you like. Hurry. Oh, good morning, Miss Newsome.
Good morning, Miss Webb.
It's cold.
Yeah, 10 below by my barn, Miss Webb.
Think of it. I'll keep yourself wrapped up.
Come on, Bessie.
Mama, I can't find my blue hair ribbon anywhere.
Just open your eyes, dear, that's all. I laid it out for you special on the dresser there. If it were a snake, it'd bite you.
Yes.
Good morning, Bill. Morning, Mr. Webb. You're up early? Yes, I just been back to my old college in New York State. Been any trouble here? Called up this morning to rescue a Polish fellow. Darn near froze to death he was. We must get it in the paper. Wasn't much. Good morning, Mother.
How did it go, Charles?
Oh, I told him a thing or two. Everything all right here?
Nothing that's happened that's special. Been right cold. Hattie Newsom says it's 10 below over to her barn.
Yes, well, it's colder than that in Hamilton. Students' ears are falling off. It ain't Christian. Any mistakes in the paper?
None that I noticed. Coffee's ready when you want it. Oh, Charles, don't forget. It's Emily's birthday. Did you remember to get her anything?
Oh, yes, I got her something right here. Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
Don't interrupt her now, Charles. She's slow enough as it is. can see her at breakfast. Children, 7 o'clock, time to get up.
I
don't
can't
want to
bear
tell
it.
you again.
They're so young and beautiful. Why do they ever have to get old? I can't look at anything hard enough. Good morning, Mama.
Well, a very happy birthday to my girl and many happy returns. There are surprises waiting for you on the kitchen table.
Oh, Mama, you shouldn't have. No, I can't. No, I can't.
But birthday or no birthday, I want you to eat your breakfast. I want you to grow up and be a good, strong girl. That and the blue papers from your Aunt Carrie, and I reckon you can guess who brought the postcard album. Must have come out in the cold pretty early. George Gibbs. Right nice of him.
George, I've forgotten that.
Chew that bacon good and slow. It'll help keep you warm on a cold day.
Mom, just look at me for 1 minute as though you really saw me. Mama, 14 years have gone by. And I'm dead. But you're a grandmother, Mama. And I married George Gibbs, Mama. Wally's dead too, Mama. His appendix burst on a camping trip to Crawford Notch. We felt just terrible about it, don't you remember? But just for a moment, we were all happy. For a moment, we're together. Let's look at one another.
That in the yellow paper is something I found among the attic of your grandmother's things. You're old enough to wear it now, and I thought you'd like it.
Oh, Mom. Oh, it's beautiful. It's just what I wanted. It's so lovely.
I'm glad you liked it. Hunted all over. Your Aunt Nora couldn't find one in Concord, so I had to send all the way to Boston. Oh, Wally has something for you, too. He made it at manual training class, and he's very proud of it. Make sure you make a big fuss. Oh, your father has something for you, too. Don't know what it is myself. Shh, here he comes.
Where's my girl? Where's my birthday girl?
I can't. I can't go on. It just goes by so fast. And we don't even have time to look at one another. All that was going on, and we never noticed. Take me back. Up to the hill, to my grave, but first wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. And goodbye, Grover's Corners. To Mama and Papa. Goodbye to clocks ticking. And my butternut tree. Mama's sunflowers. And food and coffee and new iron clothes and hot baths. And sleeping and waking up. Earth, you're just too wonderful for anyone to realize you. Do any human beings realize life while they live it? Every moment.
No. Saints and poets, maybe. They do some.
I'm ready to go back.
Were you happy?
No. No, I should have listened to you. That's all human beings are, just blind people.
Emily, look at the night sky. The stars are coming out.
Mr. Simpson, I should have listened to them.
Yes. And now you know. Now you know that's what it was to be alive. To move about in a cloud of ignorance, go up and down with those about you, to always be at the mercy of one self-centered passion or another. That was the happy existence you wanted to go back to. Ignorance and blindness.
That ain't the whole truth, and you know it, Simon Stimson. Look at that star. I forget its name.
My boy Joel was a sailor. Knew him all by heart. Used to sit on the front porch and tell him all by name. Yes, sir. Wonderful.
Stars might have been perfect. Yes. Yes, it is.
Great, another one of them coming.
That's funny. You know room for them here now.
Goodness sakes.
Mother Gibbs, it's George.
Just sit and be patient.
It's George.
My boy Joel, he knew the stars. He used to say it took 1,000,000 years to get that speck of light down here to Earth. Don't seem like he could believe it, but that's what he used to say.
Goodness, that ain't no way to behave. Mother Gibbs,
Yes, Emily?
they don't understand, do they?
No, dear. They don't understand.
Looks everybody's asleep in the Rover's Corners. There are a few lights on. Shorty Hawkins down at the depot has just watched the Albany train go by. In the livery stable, somebody's setting up late and talking. Yes, it's clearing up. There are the stars doing their old crisscross in the sky. Scholars haven't quite settled the matter yet. Seem to believe there's no living beings up there. Just fire or chalk. This one's straining away to make something of itself. Strain so great that every 16 hours, everybody lies down and gets a rest. 11 o'clock in Grover's Corners. Everybody's resting in Grover's Corners. Tomorrow's another day. You get a good rest too. Good night.